It's Duffy. Got a special treat for you. We're going to be doing a series of shows about land speed racing with the premier land speed racer in North America, Jay Allen. So thank you very much for doing this, and welcome to the show, Jay. How you doing? And you're getting ready to head out to the flats, right? The Salt Flats?
I tell you what, right now I'm a nervous wreck, but I'm not the premier land speed racer. I'm one of them. And if you're a land speed racer, you got to be humble.
Well, you're the only one I know, so you're the premier one in my mind.
All right, I'll be your premier land speed racer. But yeah, we're leaving on Wednesday morning. I just left the shop and my buddies are over there. It's like, it's nerve-wracking. We have 3 motorcycles, and right now, as I speak, not one of them are running. I know. And but all of you out there know in life that if you just try and you believe, you prevail. And I really believe we're going to prevail. We are on, as they say, a mission from God. And if that salt's good, I think that it's going to be an amazing year. And we need something amazing to happen this year. It's been a messed up year, but at least we got a shot at it. Of the events we do, there's only one happening. It's called Speed Week. It's the most famous event of all. Typically, a field is about 600 racers or more. It's going to be probably 250 to 300. We're even volunteering our time when we're not racing to be part of the the infrastructure to let other people race. So this is going to be very special. And a lot of weird things happen during this pandemic, but I just hope the salt's hard and it's one of those magical times.
So let's talk about that. What makes the salt hard, and talk about what makes it a good year for land speed racing? Like, talk about what happened last year and the environmental conditions and how they relate to speed.
You got it, my brother. They talk about the salt gods, and every year, I don't care what you're riding or what you're driving, it really relates to the condition of the salt. And so 2 years ago, 2018, I ran 232.785, and it felt like nothing. I was looking around like a tourist. I was shocked when they told me how fast I ran. And now let's fast forward to last year. Oh my God. It was deadly. I learned one thing. I was the fastest bike at Speed Week last year, and I thought I was going down, and I was doing well over 200, and I thought, I'm going to crash. And I didn't say the F word. I didn't say, oh shit. I was talking in tongues. Like, I don't even know what it meant, dude, but I was scared to freaking death. And I actually just captured it. Like my wheel locked, all of a sudden I had traction on my front tire because it was just floating. And then I went on to the next event. And at that event, I was able to set a record, 2 world records and an AMA record by 1 mile an hour on the sloppiest, snowiest, ickiest salt you've ever imagined. And in some ways, that was probably the best riding I've ever done, even though I've had more impressive records.
And what is that related to? Is that environmental conditions? What affects whether or not it's a good year for racing on the Salt Flats?
Well, an ultimate year is that the salt's hard, almost like concrete. And I've seen very few years, but the magical years, you will leave a burnout. Cars there will leave a black mark in the salt. But it's
that hard.
Oh, absolutely. And that's when you can really rock and roll, because it's like being on an asphalt street.
Yeah.
But when you're riding the typical salt, it's
is it bouncy? I mean, because you're going so fast, any imperfection would be
absolutely.
Exaggerated.
Listen, a racer that we all look up to, this guy is a genius, and he's just a madman, and he builds the most beautiful bikes. But I know his bike's a rigid frame bike, and if any of you guys out there, old chopper guys, you know that when you're riding a rigid frame bike and the roads are smooth, you can drag your ear on the asphalt. But when they're bumpy, that bike starts hopping all over the place. And Hero crashed at 217 miles an hour because it was a really terrible, bumpy course last year. And he had a bike that was just untouchable. I'm talking a 259 mile per hour motorcycle. So, yeah, every year the course is different, and it dictates how we're going to do out there. And then there's you and your machine, of course. But as to what makes it that way, I can't tell you totally, because even when it's perfect, when the sun gets really hot, guess what? It sweats and the water raises. So I think it's really how much rain they get all year, how deep the water table is, and what your last rain was, and does it have time to dry out enough to get the crusty surface. I hope this isn't boring to you guys out there, but I hope you're seeing it in your head. There's so many damn variables to setting world land speed records.
Well, tell me about your history there. You've been doing this for years. One year you hit the cameras or the timer 1 year. So tell me about your history there. Give us a little summary of how long you've been doing this, and then we'll talk a little bit about why you do it.
Well, I'm hooked, number one, and most people that get involved in land speed racing, it gets in your blood. But I started out with a prop, the broken spoke. It's set in Laconia behind the bar, a little 1946
on the wall, right? It was on the wall.
Yeah, it was on the wall, and it was built to go to Bonneville. And so many years ago, Dave Iverson, the founder of the spoke, who was a great wrench on Indians, I don't know what possessed me. Maybe the guy upstairs just said, this is going to be your destiny or something. Because I looked at Dave, I says, look me in the eye and shake my hand. And he says, for what? And I says, let's take that little chief to Bonneville. And you know what, Duffy? I've never missed a year of Bonneville ever since that year. I mean, I have raced every year. 51 land speed records later, I started out on that little 1946 Indian that Samantha Morgan, the Wall of Death Rider, rode and broke my record on. And then I evolved to an FXR. And this is, man, S&S powered stuff. Thanks to S&S Cycle, they really believed in me, and they gave me the powertrains to go out and probably get more records than anyone at S&S has ever set using their motors. And I'm still running S&S motors. And now today, it's the world of computers and turbos, and I'm running 220-inch turbocharged Harley Davidsons. One's a raw bike, just bare bone, and we're hoping to get that between 200 and 215. So it's just hold on, dig in your knees, dig in your elbows, keep your head down and don't fall off, and open that thing wide up. And then the other one, oh my God, this is the one. We ran 232 on it. But now we have a Ralph Hudson body. Now we have a Garrett 660 turbo. This bike is so improved and so much more, as we call, slippery, because the air is like a wall that we could be looking, and I'm talking out the side of my neck here, between 240 and 265.
Is that the one you just got painted last week? Tell me that story about paint, how important that is, how that even affects it. Every little bit matters.
Every little minute detail. The Zeus fasteners that clip the body onto the bike, we took Bondo and just a little 64th of an inch edges, we filled it in with Bondo just so the wind wouldn't cup on those little surfaces. I mean, it's all incremental when you're trying to be one of the fastest in the world.
And you've been doing it for a while, so you're like squeezing every little last inch out of it? Is that?
My God. This is like my 19th or 20th year land speed racing. Yes.
And talk about the process. This is like a group and your team. These are a bunch of like mad scientists, do-it-yourselfers who do this every year. Talk about it. This isn't like, like some NASCAR team that, you're working on a factory team. This is like a bunch of guys, figuring this out on their own. I mean, this is...
Right now, One Feather Racing's playing with scared money. And I've got some of the brightest guys in the world over there 25 miles from me right now that are in that garage, and they don't even talk to one another. Each one has a job to do, and they are so focused. They're laser focused. It's unbelievable. That's why I really believe that this is going to happen. Yeah.
Well, how many people are there on the team? And it's like, how is the work broken down? Like, you're the rider. Is there like a fabricator? How does it break down?
Well, my partner, Dustin King, is my success. And through the years, I have been so blessed to have a person that matched the bike that I was riding. And as I've evolved, I hooked up with a young millennial named Dustin King, who is a savant. This kid is a fabricator extraordinaire. He writes his own computer programs. He's got it down from the high-tech end to the fabrication and using mills and lathes. And all the guys he hangs out with are some of the smartest, coolest cats you've ever met. And, these guys have full-time jobs. They got women, they got families. So they're busting their asses right now for our bikes, but they don't get to go to Bonneville and see us race.
They don't go on the trip?
They can't. So it's Dustin and I, two guys, 3 motorcycles going to Bonneville.
Is that because of pandemic restrictions or?
No, it's life, man. It's just like you. We all have jobs. Yeah. They are giving every bit of spare time they have to prepare these bikes to go to Bonneville. And believe me, I want to make these guys proud. I want to just blow their minds.
Dude, I'm sure you do. I mean, you set a record every year. What, are you kidding me? Every year I talk to you. Every year you set a record. It's crazy.
We do.
It's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. It really is. Every year you set a record. How do you set a record? Talk about the rules. How there's a course and 2 passes.
All you guys out there, watch the movie World's Fastest Indian with Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, great movie.
It's a true story, and it would give you an idea why I'm so jacked about land speed racing, which Bonneville was back in 1914. So here's how it works. If you have a bike that doesn't go 175 miles an hour or faster, you go on what they call the mountain course or the short course. That gives you 1, if you choose, or 2 miles to gain your speed, to build it up. So imagine 2 miles going through the gears, your head's down, your elbows are in, your knees are tucked. And when you see those 3 flags, you know the timer's starting.
That's what.
So you're in position, hopefully full throttle, just flying. And then I'm doing about a football field a second, maybe 15 seconds a mile, something like that. And then when you see the second set of 3 flags, you're coming out of the mile. And then once you come out of that mile, you slowly decelerate your bike. You start lifting your head ever so gently as a brake. But if you sit up too quick, it can blow you off the motorcycle. So you bring your head up nice and slow, and you feel the pressure against your forehead. If it's too much, you get down.
There's no brakes, right? You use your body to slow yourself down.
We do have brakes, but
you do.
It's so slippery and sketchy out there. You really don't want to use your brakes. But you know what? There's somebody else waiting to make their pass.
Yeah.
So a good rider exits the course safely, but as quickly as possible, so they can get the next guy and cue down that course. Because you never know if a rainstorm or the winds are going to kick up. So you don't want to be some jackass that's dipping around out there and screw some people out of it.
You don't race back the same way. You go around and then do it again. Is that how it works? So you use the same direction?
Different organizations do it differently. But what I'm doing this SCTA this year, it takes 2 days to set a record. So I'm going to make a pass. And let's say my pass is a record pass. This is a beautiful sentence. When you pull off and you go over to some guy at a pup tent and he heard your number and he heard your time and you stare at him and you wait for his lips to move. And when he says, you're going to impound, that's when you get a Woody. That's when you go.
Why? What is that when they check your bike? Or
impound means, dude, you just set a number higher than the record. Get to him, and then they send a steward out to make sure you don't mess with that bike, and you follow them to impound, where you've got to leave it overnight, and they'll give you 4 hours to check all your safety stuff. No motor changes, no major stuff, but just little things. And then the next morning, as that sun's coming up, only the racers that made it to impound the day before go out, and they're the first ones to make those passes on what they call a return run. And if those 2 runs average higher than the record run, you are the new record holder.
Wow. So they keep the motorcycle between the 2 runs? So you can't alter it at all?
They keep it in impound. And at the end of the day, you've got to leave the course. You got to go back to town.
All right. That's okay.
It's intense. There's a guy, Sam Wheeler. He died out in Bonneville. And that's another scary thing. Some of the smartest men I know have either been hurt really bad or passed. And it freaks me out that I'm just a mediocre dude and I'm still hanging in there. But Sam Wheeler, if I'm correct, made 13 world record passes in a streamliner. He was running like 326 miles an hour, but he never could back it up, Duffy. He never was the fastest motorcycle in the world because he couldn't hit it both directions.
Really?
It's a challenge.
Well, he broke the record one way, but he never did it twice.
No.
Wow.
So
how frustrating would that be? God.
And the guy was a genius. I watched him crash one time, and I'm shocked he survived. He not only survived, he was fine. And I saw him in the buffet line getting the second helping of dessert. And I said, Sam, I can't believe you're eating more chocolate pudding after I saw the crash today. But God rest his soul, he did have a crash take his life. So it's serious out there. But you know what? If you want to go fast, it's the safest place in the world to do it.
Well, they've been doing it for a long time. How long have they been racing out of the flats? 1914. Is that Sir, the British guy with the blue?
Yeah. There's one guy in 1938. I think he went somewhere like in the 360s or 70s.
In 1938.
1938. I mean, to this day, we're having tire issues in the speeds we're running. I don't know what kind of tires they were running, but these guys were studs. They were just bad, man. And then it dropped from that time down into the twos. I got another funny one for you. In this organization here, they have a 200-mile-an-hour club. So if you get a record over 200 miles an hour, theoretically, you get the red hat. Oh, you got a 200-mile-an-hour club hat.
Oh, so everyone knows that you're in the club because you walk around with the hat.
You got that. And trust me, they're like banny roosters walking around that salt with those red hats on, right? So 2 years ago on that good salt I was telling you about, I averaged 229.7 miles an hour.
And you got your hat?
Between the two runs. So I go up to one of the big dogs. They go, hey, man. I said, 229.7. I said, do I get my hat? And he goes, Jay, you don't get a hat. I said, what are you talking about, man? I'm well over 200. I got a record. He goes, well, we got together and decided we changed the rules because technology with what it is and everything, it just got easier to get that. So listen to this one. For me to get a red hat, I have to average 230. I was 0.3 of 1 mile an hour from getting that stupid hat.
Dude, that's brutal. That's unfair. I can't believe that. That's just...
You know what I told him, Duffy? I said, let me ask you one question. You guys, when you made that rule, did all of you have red hats?
Already, right? Yeah, they already had them.
Yeah, they did. So anyway, having the red hat's a prestigious thing. I don't really care about the hat, but...
but it is kind of the principle.
But I hope to come home with a hat this year.
How does it work? Walk me through, you arrive there, it's kind of a remote location, you stay in town and go out there each day. Walk me through, is it a week-long thing? How long are you there?
Yeah. Man, you're asking lots of great questions for your viewers. You really are. You're giving them a sense of the feel of it. And the first thing is, keep in mind, when you come down a hill, I'm going across 93 and there's a mountain, you come down and you can see Windover, Nevada, and you look off to your right, you can see the salt. Oh my God, this gray hair, I turn into a little 16-year-old giddy kid. We made it another time. We made it. I'm back at Bonneville. So what you want to do is they have what they would call tech inspection. And you want to get to tech as quick as possible. And they're really sticklers about paperwork. If you fill out your paperwork wrong and you set a record and then you got the class wrong or something, it doesn't count. They'll take it away from you. It's very political and they're very fastidious about everything has to be perfect. But you go to what they call tech inspection, and that's to keep all of us safe. And these guys work for Boeing. I mean, they inspected jets, so to get past them, your rig, and I mean your gloves, your helmet, you change your helmet every 3 years, your race suit. You have to safety wire a lot of your parts on your bike. So if they vibrate off, they won't end up on the course. I mean, they are sticklers about safety. There's no doubt about it. So you go through safety inspection, and then once you've done that, you're ready for race day. That's how it works. And then you can change classes. Like I can do gas and fuel class, but every time you change a class, you got to go back to inspection.
And what are there rules for each class to make sure everyone's sort of dealing with the same sort of, I guess, restrictions? In terms of building the bike or something, is that how it works?
That's the beautiful thing about land speed racing is it's an equal playing field. They go by CCs. They go by, is it naturally aspirated? Is it supercharged? Is it turbocharged?
Well, I saw a guy, they have like a 50cc class and people on like little Vespas and like with like chainsaw engines going out there on the salt flats. It's crazy.
Hey, I met an Italian company out there. They flew their motor home. The racer looked like this handsome male model. They had models with him, and he rode a scooter. But it was a badass scooter.
Badass scooter.
The Italians know what they're doing. They set a record on that thing. And so, it's all relative. You open those record books, it's what CC you're running. If a guy can go out with a Honda 50 and set a record at Bonneville, he's got a badass Honda 50. It's as big as me setting a record with my 120-inch motor. You know what I'm saying? That's the beautiful thing about Bonneville. Meanwhile, Turbinator, he hopes to do 510 miles an hour, right? So there's everything across the board.
And how does it work? Do you like stay out on a camper? I mean, how do you live out on the flats? I mean, during those, are you out there for a couple days at a time, or do you just, how does it actually work? Because it's a god awful hot place, right? I mean,
oh man, it zaps you. By the end of the day, you are done. You're standing on a white surface in approximately 100-degree temperature. I mean, even if you're wearing shorts and you have underwear on, your privates can get sunburned. You got to be careful, man. I'm telling you. But what we do is we stay in Wendover, Nevada, right in town. It's just probably 20 minutes to get out on that salt. It's really close. And at the end of the day, everybody heads back. They get a shower, and it's like snow skiing all day. You're wiped out, but don't lay down because you'll fall asleep. And this particular meet, Speed Week, is the biggest one of all. They'll have rat rod shows and street rod shows for 2 nights at a hotel. So it's kind of fun to grab a shower, get a cold beer, and go take pictures of all the rods. And they have salt all over them. They dry out at the salt. So you're looking at like a 1934 with a Hemi in it, with salt all over it. Some great photos, some great pictures. And so Sturgis is happening.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome, man. I am so glad that Sturgis is happening, and it's as big as it can be in the way that we've all been restricted. Yeah. They're gonna maximize that rally the best they can. Now back to Laconia, I talked to my partner Melissa today, who owns the Broken Spoke, and she seemed very positive about Laconia. Again, you have to make concessions. There's no vendors. There's no big tin area. I said, well, what's going to happen, Melissa? I mean, it doesn't sound like much of a rally. She goes, Jay, we've got cycle sources. Chris, with Chris and everybody coming in, they're going to be doing bike shows.
Doing their riding bike shows and all that. Yeah, that's...
Absolutely. Dave Perowitz is going to be doing, and I love it. Do you know Dave Perowitz goes by DP?
Yeah.
Jody goes, if you saying DP, that's his daughter. And I'm like, DP? And I finally
she's gonna be there too. She's a land speed racer too, isn't she? Isn't she?
Oh my God, she set a ton of records.
Yeah,
she's the first woman over 200 miles an hour on a Harley Davidson. She's as incredible as her dad, and he is mentoring her. I hope she's there. But anyway, Dave's going to be doing the custom paint show.
Oh, he's the king of paint shows. Yeah.
And so and Broken Spoke's just one of the locations. So even though Laconia isn't going to be what it was, look, we've all made concessions with this pandemic. It sounds like it's going to be a hell of a good time.
Yeah, you just gotta roll with the punches and give them what they give you. Go with what they give you.
Yeah, and how's the Looney Bin? I love that place. Man, I tell you, they do such a great job up there. And Dan Lawson always plays at the Looney Bin. That man is such a talented guitarist. But I hope I'm there. I hope they need me, because I missed it in June, and I would really miss it to not go in August.
I mean, the food at the Looney Bin is awesome. It's always great. It's a good place to have, and it's one of the few places during Bike Week that's kind of an intimate setting anyway. Even during a regular rally, you can go there and feel like, it's just like a nice little place that you're hanging out in.
They're so comfortable with you that like they kick you around like you're their dog. I love them. I feel like I belong there when I go to the Looney Bin. And, when I announce a band at the Broken Spoke and I got an hour and a half break, I run up to the Looney Bin and grab.
I know. That's where I always bump into you. You got to grab a beer and a bite to eat and then head back down to the Broken Spoke.
Dude, and there's nothing like looking out on Lake Winnipesaukee and, and that sun sets down over the lake when you're coming out of Meredith and you're just watching it. Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. Riding your bike in Alton Bay is just, it's a spiritual experience in a lot of ways. I'm sure it's the same way, I was just talking to Panhead Billy recently. It's I'm sure the way people feel in Sturgis going in there this week.
Yeah.
Are you going to stop in for the end of Sturgis, or you're going to miss it altogether, right?
No, this is the first year I planned on doing the 80th Sturgis. And as you know, Sturgis is big every fifth year. I'm going to miss it because it's the exact days of Bonneville, the 8th to the 15th. So, no, I'm going to focus on racing, and I hope I've got some good stories to tell you when we're done.
Oh, I'm sure you will. Well, thanks for doing this.
No, I'm honored, man. I'm honored. You asked a lot of great questions, and the people out there, you've got their backs. It's really cool that you do what you do, because I know you work a real job too.
Well, this is just all sort of our passion, and I really I can't wait. I'll be watching your pictures. I'll be sharing all the pictures you send us.
I'm honored, man. I'm honored.
We'll catch up after you set a few new land speed records in a couple days, and be safe out there, brother.
Hey, and if I bomb and things break, I'll still let you know. I'll still keep you posted.
Oh, it'll still be awesome. It's always great. No matter what happens, it's going to be awesome.
All right. Well, you take care, and everybody out there, keep the shiny side up and the rubber side down.